OnShape Exercise 8. This drawing can seem a little difficult, but I'm going to show you a few new tools. They're going to make things a little bit easier, and you can kind of create some new ways of drawing things or creating shapes that you may not have realized before. So the first thing we're going to do is stuff we're familiar with. We're going to create a sketch, and we're going to start on the top plane. We're going to hit N for normalize, and we're going to get rid of our extra views. Going to create a sketch, and I'm going to start here on the center location and just draw the basics of the shape I want, keeping everything snapping to 90 degrees and get everything lined up. I'm actually going to throw in a few dimensions first before I go any further. This is just going to help eliminate too many moving parts, which we had an issue with in an older drawing. So we're going to set this to 4 inches, set our height here to 1 1/4 or 1.25, and add in a constraint or two. So we're going to make these two lines equal, and we can start adding in some of the features that we need. So we're going to delete these two lines because they should be tangent arcs, which we're going to select again, so make sure you have tangent arc. Seems to be one of the more efficient ways of making an arc. And we're going to make sure that everything's locked in. And this always seems to just put one tangent in. So we're going to add that in for both of them. So tangent here and here, here, and here. Dimension our distance between those 2 points, which is 2 1/4. And we have a diameter for this, which it's asking for a radius, so we need 0.5. So that's the basics of this shape. We just have to add in a little U-shaped bracket here at the front. So we're going to use our line tool, and we did this in a previous drawing. Just make sure everything snaps to 90. We're going to use that arc tool again, draw that in, and we can actually delete that after we draw in our arc. Trim out the center and start adding in some dimensions. So from here to the front, we're looking at 0.5. For our radius of this, we're looking for 0.25. And we're definitely missing a tangent constraint, and we want to see where that one is. So without anything selected, if you hover over, you can highlight which tangent exists. So it's that one, so I need to add in the opposite. And something can still move. There it is. So we need to add in an equal constraint right here. And that locks everything into place. We could add in these whole features later, but we're just going to add them in now. We're going to set this to 0.5. And the same thing for this one. Finish our sketch. Go to our 3D view. Extrude this, and I like to extrude this one down. It just makes sense in my head. And we're going to go 0.375. Enter. Green check mark. And that's the basics of our shape. So creating this angled hole feature that goes into this bracket, it could be done several ways. I could sketch from here, draw in a square angle, and then round over those edges and go through a whole bunch of busy work. But I'm going to show you a feature that can save you some time, and it can also be a really powerful tool for creating really complex shapes. So that tool is called plane, and it's in this feature list that allows you to add construction points or places where you can create sketches. So if you look here, these are all planes, and we turned those off. We only turn them on when we need them, but there's nothing at a 45-degree angle from this corner going out. So what we can do is we can choose line angle from the drop down, select the line, and it automatically creates a plane, and I can define its angle. And you can see here it's at 40 degrees. So from this surface, and it shows you from this flat surface, it's 40 degrees. I actually want that to be 45. Enter, preview it, make sure it looks okay. Hit the green check mark. So now I can use my sketch tool and select this plane. Now be careful, because if you try to select it here, it's going to select that flat surface. So make sure you're off on the edge of it. You select that plane and N for normalize. This view kind of messes with my brain a little bit, so this one makes a little bit more sense. And we want to do something that's called, well, I know it as project or include. OnShape defines it as use. And if you have something that's behind, so these lines aren't touching that sketch. Sometimes it'll reference it, sometimes it won't. So what we're going to do is we're going to project in or use lines from another object in this sketch as part of our sketch. And the only one that we actually need is this bottom one. And you can see that it turns black automatically into our sketch because it's fully constrained from the sketch that it was created in. So now I'm going to use my line tool, and I'm going to make this purposefully wider than where I want it. So we're going to add in our arc feature, and then we can go ahead and delete that line. So I don't actually have to put in a lot of dimensions for this. I'm going to use my constraints. I'm going to use coincident. I'm going to select that line and that edge because they're lined up in the drawing. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. And you can see I'm missing a tangent, so I'm going to make this and this tangent, and I only need one dimension, which is from this center point to this edge, and that is 1.5. I need one more feature, and I showed you in a previous drawing that you can do multiple extrusions from one sketch. So we're going to draw our circle feature in here. And, forgot to dimension it, so we'll add one in. And that is a diameter of 0.75. So that sets most of our features. We're going to hit the green check mark. Going to go to our isometric view, extrude, and we're going to select both the outer shape and that circle. If it's hard to grab and you don't want to move around, you can do the circle first, then the outer shape. And if I flip this the other direction, a couple of things are going to happen. So if I go all the way through, if I extrude it 4 inches, it's not going to self-terminate when it hits that part. And if I go until it's not poking through the other side, it's not going to be a full shape. So there's another feature in here, and we used this before already, and it's up to next, and up to face. In this instance, up to face is going to be the better option, and we're going to select that surface. And we're going to click our green check mark. So we're going to do this again, but we got to turn back on our sketch, extrude, and because one is a cut and one is make a new shape, up to next really doesn't work. So I'm going to select this circle, and this time I'm going to select remove. And when I make this circle, a couple of things happen. So it gets a flat bottom hole. But if you look at your drawing, the hole is actually in line with this bottom surface of the bracket. So I'm going to use the same feature, up to face, select that face again, and hit my green check mark. So you could, right now you really can't see that, but I'll show you another trick here, and this is gonna line up with our other features. So I'm gonna turn off that plane just so it's not in the way. And I'm actually gonna turn off my origin because it's just floating in the middle of nowhere. So I can choose a plane like this one, because if you look at it from the right view, it kind of slices down through my part. And I'm going to use a feature. So if I right click on that plane and use section view, I can then take that section view and drag it through my part. So now I can see that that is a flat, it is flat and it's lined up with this surface. So if you ever need to inspect the inside of your part, this is a good way to do that, so you can see how features kind of work on the inside of something. And you can also do this by creating your own plane. Like we already created a plane of our own, so I can select this plane and do the same thing, section view, and then I can drag it through the part just like the other one. So we're actually going to use this feature because there's a kind of a complex thing to draw, and there's a little ring on the inside of this tube, and there's really no other way to draw that than to create your own section view. So we're going to use the plane feature, but this time we're just going to use offset. We're going to select this flat surface, and what we're looking for is the center of this part. So our part, from where we selected to the center of that hole, is half the total distance from here to here, and that is 1.25 is the total. So we're looking for 5/8 of an inch, or 0.625. And if I hit enter, I can inspect that by going to the top view. Does it visually look like it's in the center? Yes. Green check mark. So I'm going to go back to my trimetric, and I'm going to turn on section view, so that way it cuts it. And now that I have my section view, I can actually use this to create a sketch on the inside of my part. So I'm going to use my sketch. I'm going to select that plane, N for normalize, and I want to put that ring right here. So I'm going to use a lined rectangle, and what this allows me to do is align a rectangle to this edge. Now I have nothing that I can grab onto here, so I first need to use that project and include. So I'm going to include that line. I don't need it anywhere else. That's the only one that I need. So I'm going to go back to my rectangle, and now I can coincident constrain to that line, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. So for this aligned rectangle, you select your first point, a second point along the same line you want to align it to, and then you determine its height. Now this is a little bit of an optical illusion. It looks like it's slanted, but that's because of these cross-section lines that let you know you're looking at a cross-section. So I do know that that is a rectangle. You can see here when I hover over it, I'm getting my perpendicular constraint, so I do know that that's square. I need to throw in a couple of dimensions, so I need a total height, and you can put this anywhere. We're going to go 1/16 of an inch, or 0.0625. I want my total width to be 1/8, which is 0.125. And lastly, my height from the top should be 0.5. So you can see everything's fully constrained. So we're going to do another new tool. So we're going to use revolve, and we're going to select oh, it's not letting me select it. That's fun. Okay, so I selected my sketch here, and then I need a revolve axis, and we're going to use remove. So that way, so what revolve does is it takes that profile, and you need either a center point or you need something perfectly round. And what it's going to do is it's going to sweep that around the round shape or the center pivot. So think of like a compass where it has the sharp point on one end, the pencil on the other, and it puts the point in the center and then sweeps that pencil around the outside. And this would be more like tracing around a round object. So it revolves it in a circle. Looks about right. And now we can take our section view and turn it off. And I can look in there and see that it doesn't delete. When I do a section view, it doesn't delete what I've created. What it does is just hides it. So that's why when I sweep across it, it appears again. So you can see that that ring has been cut the entire way around. So we need one last feature. So I'm going to turn off my section view. And don't worry, it's simple. So we're going to create a fillet. So I'm going to come around to the front side here, and we're going to fillet this corner, that corner, and we want a radius of 1/8 of an inch, so 0.125. And that completes this part. I want you to screenshot this view here, or trimetric. I want to be able to see that ring, your slope, and submit to Canvas for a grade. Turn off any extra planes as well.